Mary and I moved to Ashland about 10 years ago. And in these past 10 years, we have made many, many wonderful friends. Today, I want to tell you just about one of them. Her name is Isabel. We met her 6 years ago. And over those 6 years, we've become very close. We celebrate all of our birthdays together now. She's been at all of our family gatherings. And although she was not born into a Jewish family, far from it, she loves to attend our Passover Seders, Hanukkah celebrations, all the Jewish festivals. She especially enjoys Shabbat dinners at our home. I grew up in the Midwest in the 1950s. Back then, young boys really didn't have close female friends. So my friendship with Isabel sort of took me by surprise. But she made friendships so very easy. We live in the same neighborhood. I like to take long walks, so does she. Before long, we started walking together. Those walks have now become a daily routine. During our walks, I share with her things that good friends share with one another: hopes, fears, secrets. We understand each other so well. Often we don't have to talk at all. We just walk. Most of my friends, I guess you know my background, most of my friends, I guess all of them now that I think of it, are college graduates. Some of them have graduate, postgraduate degrees. Izzy, she doesn't seem to mind that we call her that. At least she's never objected to the nickname. Izzy doesn't have a formal education. She's what we used to call a dropout. But you would never know it. She is so remarkably wise for her age. She's 6.5 years old. 6.5. That's about 45 in dog years. Izzy is our golden retriever. Now, one morning, Izzy and I were walking along Bear Creek, and I was telling her about a program I had watched on TV the night before. The program was entitled The Secret Life of Dogs. Izzy, I said, I think you would have found this program fascinating. She stopped what she was doing, sniffing something under a bush, and I could tell she was interested. I could just tell. Tell me more, her eyes said. But remember, I still have a lot to do on this walk, so don't go on too long, just hit the important things. Oh, of course, I said. I'll summarize it for you. The program follows several dogs that are being trained to help people with physical disabilities. The dogs do amazing things. They open and they close doors for people. They turn the lights on and off. They retrieve food from the refrigerators. One of the dogs is trained to retrieve bottles of beer. Sometimes they even save their owners' lives. But equally amazing is the emotional bond that develops between dog owners and their pets. And the bond goes both ways, from owner to dog, from dog to owner. Humans and their canine friends actually learn to love each other. Just then, a squirrel runs in front of me. Izzy started to run after it, but at the last second, she decided not to. And I was certain it was because she was so interested in my story. So I continued. Scientists at several prestigious universities, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, they studied this bond between humans and dogs. They concluded that the relationship between the two species is unique in the natural world. And they also concluded that many, many years ago, and over a very long period of time, it was the dog who was largely responsible for creating that relationship. To put it simply, dogs evolved specifically to be our friends. Izzy cocked her head. I know, I said to her. That's not quite how we think of evolution, is it? We usually think of survival of the fittest as a savage and sometimes lethal competition between or among species, and only the strongest, the fiercest, those are the ones who win. Those are the ones who survive the competition. But these studies about dogs show that evolution doesn't always work like that. Dogs survived, in fact, they flourished in a world dominated not by them, but by a much more powerful species, human beings. Dogs learned not to compete with humans, but instead to share the world with them. You see, Izzy, it's not always the biggest or the toughest or the meanest who survive. Nature sometimes favors the friendliest. She looked at me for a long time. I could tell she was fascinated. Either that, or she wanted me to give her a cookie, which I did, by the way. Cookie is what we call her dog biscuits. Izzy always knows how to look at me in that way so that I'll give her a cookie. She gobbled it down, wagged her tail, which means in Izzy talk, I like this program. Go on. And so I did. Now, when the scientists dug deeper into the story, they discovered an unanticipated twist to the plot. As dogs learned to become friendly towards humans, humans learned, or perhaps it's more accurate to say, the dogs taught us how to seek out their friendship. As we discovered that there are tangible rewards for accepting dogs as our friends. Over time, we found we could replicate those rewards by making friends with other humans. We learned that when we are in a group of friends, what we call a community, we tend not to be afraid of the dark, of strangers, even of each other. Our dogs helped us learn that in an uncertain and often unfriendly world, friendship is a way, maybe the best way, for us humans to survive. Amazing, isn't it? We human beings learned what we now consider to be the most human of virtues, friendship, from dogs. Izzy's lip curled slightly, and she uttered a low growl, which is her way of telling me that she disagrees with something I've said. I could tell she was thinking and what she was thinking. Why are you so surprised? We dogs have a lot to teach you humans, if you would just learn how to listen. Oh, and by the way, she said, your little talk is starting to sound like a sermon. You know, you're right, I said. I was thinking about a sermon. I was thinking about how all this stuff about dogs and friendship might have special meaning for us humans, especially for us Jewish humans on Rosh HaShanah. Oh, Izzy, Rosh HaShanah is the Jewish New Year, by the way. She gave me a look, and that look said, yeah, I know. Every year you rehearse your sermons on me. Why should this year be any different? So let me hear the rest of it. We are a very patient breed. And here's what I told her. Our Jewish tradition tells us that no Jew should live apart from his or her community. Our tradition tells us that our community has a responsibility to ensure the physical and emotional well-being of each individual Jew. That's why so often in our lives, when we celebrate, when we pray, when we mourn, we Jews must be with a minyan. We must be surrounded by and supported by friends. So many studies tell us that people who have one or more good friends usually live healthier and happier lives than people who are considered loners. This is true regardless of our age, our social status, wealth, even our health. If we share our lives with our friends, our lives are fuller. If we share our lives with our friends, sometimes we even live longer. And there are other studies that confirm that communities are just like individuals. Communities that value, nourish, and support friendly relationships between and among its members, these communities will likely flourish. But a community that does not value, nourish, and support friendship will flounder. In time, it will fail. Let me give you an example. David French, who was an editorial writer for the New York Times, wrote an article, actually it was a review, about a church in Pennsylvania. The name of the church was the Circle of Hope. A lovely name, isn't it? It was founded in 2004 and very quickly grew to become what some might today call a megachurch. Thousands of members, a number of pastors. One of the reasons for the growth was that so many of its programs and so many activities reached out to people who felt they didn't belong in other churches. Poor people, some homeless, gay, lesbian, trans people, immigrants, many black and brown, people in pain, seeking comfort, people in doubt, seeking faith. People found what they needed in the Circle of Hope Church. They found friends and they found friendship. But everything changed when partisan politics infected the church. The kind of politics that breeds fear and mistrust and pulls people apart. Friendships that depend on tolerance and respect and understanding, friendships could not survive. As the church became more concerned with partisan politics and less with people, congregants stopped making the effort to come together. A once flourishing community simply withered away for lack of friendship. After reading David French's account of the demise of the church, I did research on why synagogues fail. Here are some of the reasons that congregants gave. And some of these studies, by the way, are in our library. Here are some of the reasons why they said their synagogue failed. These are all taken right from their testimonies. We didn't have enough money because too many people wouldn't pay their dues. We didn't have enough money because the board couldn't control spending. There weren't enough programs for children. There was too much emphasis on children. The rabbi encouraged too much intermarriage. The rabbi ignored intermarried couples. The rabbi spent too much time on politics. The rabbi didn't care enough about politics. The prayers were boring and irrelevant. The music was awful. The seats were uncomfortable. The building was too far from my house. The sanctuary was always too hot. The sanctuary was always too cold. Nobody came to synagogue anymore because everything was on Zoom. The synagogue should have made more things available on Zoom, and so on and so on. Now, we laugh at this, but we shouldn't minimize these complaints. They were very real to some people. Each one of them could have been addressed, and they should have been addressed by a committee, by the board, by the rabbis, but for some reason they weren't, or people felt they weren't. And too many people who raised those issues felt that they were ignored. Friends don't ignore friends. They may disagree, but they don't ignore each other. And so the congregants in these synagogues, just like the congregants in the Circle of Hope Church, concluded that they would seek friends and friendship somewhere else, maybe in another congregation, maybe in some other community altogether. Now, Izzy is very intuitive. As we walked on and as I told her about all of this, she had a concerned look in her eyes that said, you sound worried. Do you think something like this could happen in your congregation? Not at all, I reassured her and myself. We're small, but we are strong. We care about each other. We try very hard to listen, to treat each other with respect, not to let our differences stand in the way of our friendships. But Izzy, we are only, if you'll pardon the expression, human. Issues come up all the time. We all complain about something. It takes time and energy to sustain friendship. When you're busy or tired or angry about something, it's all too easy to lose focus. We could be better. We could be friendlier. By now, we were home. Izzy wanted to go inside, curl up on her bed, or our bed, and take a nap. I imagine she was thinking, "Oy, enough with the problems. Time for a solution. How are how are you going to be better in this new year?" Me? Well, let's see. I guess I'm going to do more of what friends are supposed to do for each other. Celebrate their joyous family events when I can. Help them carry their sorrows when they need me to. Attend classes where together we learn new ideas. And maybe equally important, we learn to respect friends who hold opinions that are different than ours. I'll try to be more patient. I'll try to be less judgmental. And I'll try to take the time to let my friends know, by deed and by word, that I care about them. And I'll try to ask them to care about me. In short, Izzy, I'll try my best to live up to what your ancestors taught my ancestors so very long ago. She looked into my eyes and she smiled at me the way dogs smile. And you dog owners out there know exactly what I'm talking about. I leaned down to give her a hug, and she nuzzled my neck and she licked my cheek. It was her way of saying, "That's a good answer, my friend. Happy New Year." Now, where's my cookie?
Yasher koach. Thank you. Fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah. Rabbi Ken,